Welcome to The Actual Story, the official podcast of the National Agricultural Communicators of Tomorrow. I'm your host, Lydia Hill, and I, along with the rest of the National Officer team, are here to share the voices, ideas, and stories shaping the future of agriculture and communications. Whether you're a student, professional, or simply passionate about the industry, this is your place to connect, learn, and be inspired. So without further ado, let's dive into today's actual story. Erica Irlbeck is a professor of agricultural communications and associate dean for outreach and engagement in the Davis College of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Texas Tech University. In her career, she has taught a range of undergraduate and graduate courses, primarily in risk and crisis communications, video production, and strategic communications. Her teaching has been awarded at the local and national levels. In 2023, Irlbeck published a book, The Crisis Communications Guide for Agriculture, Food, and Natural Resources. The text is a culmination of years of research in risk and crisis communications in the agriculture industry. It's available online through Zan.edu Publishing. Irlbeck's passion for the agriculture industry started as a child on her family's wheat and cattle farm in northwest Oklahoma, where she was heavily involved in 4-H and FFA. Her career began in broadcast journalism and KLBK TV, Clear Channel Radio, and Ag Day television. She then worked in public relations for several years, during which she found herself unprepared to handle a crisis. When her career as a researcher and teacher began at Texas Tech, crisis communications and agriculture was an easy fit. Irlbeck's research areas are in risk and crisis communications, agriculture and television media, and the agricultural communications curriculum. Her research has been published in nearly 50 journal articles and presented at 100 academic conferences. She serves the industry at local, state, regional, and national levels in various capacities. She is past president of the Western Region American Association for Agricultural Education and assists with local and national FFA events. Locally, she serves on the Lubbock County Farm Bureau Board of Directors and leads the Hub City 4-H Club. Irlbeck received her doctorate in agricultural education and a master's in agriculture communications from Texas Tech. Her bachelor's degree in agriculture communications is from Oklahoma State. Erica is married to Scott, who farms wheat and grain sorghum in the Texas Panhandle. They have one son, Jet.
All right. Welcome, Dr. Irlbeck. It's so nice to have you on today. I guess go ahead and give us a little bit of background about yourself and what you're doing right now.
Okay, so a little bit of background on me. I am, I guess my life story in a nutshell. I'm originally from Oklahoma. I grew up on a wheat and cattle operation there. I was active in 4-H and FFA. I showed pigs and sheep and did my undergraduate in ag communications at Oklahoma State, and I was active in ACT there. My first job out of college was working in television news. I did the ag report for local television station here in Lubbock, and I left for a little bit. I worked in radio for a little while and then worked for Ag Day television for a couple of years. Came back to Lubbock because I had met a boy while I was working here and came back and we got married and we're still married. I worked several different jobs while I was here in Lubbock, and then the call of academia came, so I did my master's and doctorate in ag communications and ag education here at Texas Tech, and I started that in 2006, and I've never left. I've been at Texas Tech almost 19 years now, so I was worked through the ranks of academia in agricultural communications, and now I'm the associate dean for outreach and engagement for the Davis College of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources.
Wow, you have done a lot.
That's the quick bio.
So, I guess there was a little bit of gap where you graduated with your undergraduates and you worked for a little bit and then you went and got back into higher education. How or what advice would you give to someone who's looking to have something more than a bachelor's degree, but they don't know when the right time for that is?
So the right time is up to the person. So I was when I finished my undergraduate degree, I was done with school. Like it was not the right time for me to work on my master's degree. And a lot of people told me they're like, you better do it now or you're never going to do it. And at that time, 22-year-old me was like, well, that's fine. I don't need a master's degree. I don't want one. And at that time, I didn't have the foresight to see that I might want one at some point, but it all worked out fine. And I when I was working my job right before I started grad school, I was working in sales, and I always joke that I was not very good at sales because it wasn't a big pay cut to go to grad school. So it really depends on the person to know when the time is right. So I had an 8-year gap between my bachelor's degree and starting my master's degree, and that was right for me. So it's really up to the individual to decide when's the right time for them to start grad school.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of that as well. Personally, I'm considering, finishing up here at ABAC and then going straight into my master's degree and then
Mhm.
working for a while and then going back and getting my PhD. I don't
Yeah.
think going straight through is something I'm willing to do right now.
Yeah, yeah. And for a lot of people, I really value having my industry experience when I'm in the classroom. I like having some stories to tell and some experience to reflect back on when I'm teaching. So that's helpful for me. So and for some people it works to go straight through. For a lot of our students that we've had an opportunity to do a PhD when they finished their master's degree. Or we had a big research project and they were the right person at the end of their master's program to start their PhD. So, it really depends. So it's just up to that individual and the opportunities that present themselves at that time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You said you did a little bit of like radio and broadcasting while you were working in that 8-year gap. What led you to take that path, like compared to like photography or journalism, things like that?
Yeah. So I always knew that I wanted to work in television, and while I was at OSU, Oklahoma Cooperative Extension produced a television show. They still do. It's called Sun Up, and so I worked there as an intern, and they let us do a lot. So I got a lot of experience working for Sun Up, and so that helped build at the time we called them resume tapes, now demo reel, my demo video, whatever you want to call it. So I was able to get a job working in broadcast television at that time. So I did that for a little while, worked in radio for a little while, and then worked for Ag Day. And so I loved it. I loved working in television news. I still love television news. There's still a little part of me that misses working there. I love my job now, but every now and then I'm like, oh, that would have been a fun story to do. So yeah, it's a great field to go into. We always need good journalists. We need good agricultural journalists. We need people telling the story of agriculture. So it's a great place to go into, and there are jobs out there. There are ag news organizations, ag journalism organizations that are looking for young talent. So I really recommend looking into that. If you like to write, if you like videography, go for it. Because I loved working in it. I loved working in radio. I loved working in TV. It was a fun job for me for a while.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Sunup thanks to Dr. Moore. He loves to
Yes,
talk about
yes,
that.
we worked together. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. I can't. Some of the stuff, like I can't believe they let us tote that camera, the places that they let us go, and they just let us have a university car and let us drive all over Oklahoma. But we had fun. We
Yeah,
didn't
I
know
bet
any
it
better.
was really fun.
It was fun.
So would you say that that background of like having those experiences, is that kind of what inspired you to start your So You Talk to Cows podcast?
Um, yes, yes, and no. So one, I was teaching the Intro to AgCom class one semester. And when I teach that class, I like to bring in a lot of guest speakers. But that particular semester, there was construction happening right next to our building. And so getting on and off campus was not convenient for our guest speakers. So I was trying to think of a way that I could get people into class, and Zooming into class was, that's always kind of hard for a guest speaker because you can't really see what your audience is, how they're reacting. So I was also looking for something creative to, just kind of help fulfill the creative side of me. And so that's what kind of led me to want to do a podcast. So two things there. So I needed something creative in my life, and I needed something supplemental for the content in my class. So that helped fulfill those two things. The podcast has kind of taken a different turn. I use it to supplement my risk and crisis communications class. I don't have any new episodes up this fall. It is on my to-do list. It's been on my to-do list for like 4 weeks now, but I will get some new episodes up soon. We'll just say that, soon.
I first discovered that podcast in Dr. Moore's Intro to AgCom class, and he made us listen to an episode for a week and write a reflection on it. And I just started listening to more episodes for fun because I liked it so much.
Oh, good.
And so a lot of your content is actually used over here in Georgia. We use your book for our risk and crisis class. And I really enjoyed that as well because it didn't feel very like textbooky, and it was really easy to understand. So I did really enjoy reading that book as well.
Good. Thank you. I'm glad you said that. Yeah. And that was my goal. I did not want it to seem textbooky. I wanted it to be easy to digest. I wanted it to be something that people working in the industry could use. And and I just kind of wrote it like I was talking to people. So yeah, I didn't want it to feel stuffy.
Yeah. How long did it take you to write it?
I had been collecting content for probably 2.5 years. And then I had a sabbatical, fall of 22, I think fall of 22. And I did the bulk of the content in that one semester. And then it took another year to finish it out, do all the editing. And then it took another 6 months to find a publisher and then do another round of editing on that. So I would say probably 3 years in total. So
So you did the first round of editing yourself?
Yeah. So and that's just kind of going through, finding my own mistakes, finding places I'm like, oh, this doesn't work here anymore, moving chapters around, moving sidebar stories around, things like that. That was my own self-editing. And then once I found a publisher, they had an editor, a copy editor, and he was great. He was really great to work with. And he had a little bit of ag knowledge, but I mean, he was a copy editor by trade. So it was good that we worked really well together. He was a really good editor. And so I actually learned a lot from him. And that was a good process to work there. And so far, I think I've only found like 2 copy edits that we missed. And so I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think like writing and publishing books is so interesting. Are there local publishers, or is it like a nationwide thing for publishers? How does publishing work?
So that group was they were out of Detroit, and I don't know it's a long story how I found them. But yeah, so there are some local publishers like the Texas Tech University Press. They have actually just launched a new division of the TTU Press that will publish textbooks. So that could be an avenue that I could use in the future. So that's an option. But yeah, there are national presses that will publish textbooks, and it's just a matter of finding who works for you. But the publisher I used got acquired, so now Kendall Hunt publishes my book, and they're a pretty big publishing company. But they do just fine. We work well together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
On the topic of risk and crisis communications, how did you write stuff in your book that tailored to like the rise of media and digital platforms, and like technology has definitely changed here in the last few years. How did you make sure you wrote catering to that?
That's a good question, because that makes it hard, and I had to give myself permission to write for the space we're in right now, and things have changed even more in the last 3 years. So it yeah I and I had to, knowing that things were changing, and really things have changed a lot since it was published, so I probably need to do an update again. And so that's probably something in the next couple of years, that a second edition needs to come out so that the content doesn't get too stale. But yeah, those, with digital was and is very important when the book came out, and it's included in the book, but it's even more important now. And man, we've seen digital overtake newspapers in the last few years, and there's just the media landscape is so much more different, and knowing how to navigate that is extremely important. So yeah, some of the ways that you would manage a crisis response would be a little bit different, but taking care of victims is still the first thing that you would do in a crisis. And and then responding to your stakeholder groups would be your second piece. And using whatever platforms are necessary is still the way that you would handle that. So, there are some crises that are handled without using media, and there are some that are handled with using media. And it just kind of depends on the crisis that dictates which type of media you would use to handle that crisis.
Yeah. If I know like a lot of smaller businesses don't really think about like a crisis happening, because they aren't like a nationwide
Yeah.
corporation and stuff like that. For like those smaller businesses, how can they quickly develop just like a good hardy plan for in case of a risk or a crisis?
Yeah. So first step is to start thinking of all the things that could go wrong. Like, what are the risks that your organization faces? And so from there, are there some things that you as a small business can do to communicate to help mitigate that crisis? So that would be my first piece of advice. And then from there, okay, so we know that there are some risks, some things that could happen. So how would we communicate with our stakeholder groups if one of these things would happen? What would be our first thing that we would do if one of these things would happen? And just an example that I saw on the news this morning, they were talking about the rise in prices, looking ahead at the Christmas season, and how many of the retailers have rising prices. So if you're a small business and your prices have gone up and your customers are angry about it, how would you communicate about that? So that is a risk that every small business, if you're customer facing, how would you communicate about rising prices or supply chain issues of any type? How would you do that? Would you use social media? Would you use a letter? Would you do an email or advertising? And that's those are some things that you would kind of think through, and maybe have some statements prepared, and just have a Word document and have those statements ready, and then you just revise them to the current situation, and get them out in whatever medium is the most appropriate for that scenario. So yeah, having a few of those ready, knowing how you would get those out, those would be my big pieces of advice for a smaller business. So, but it's always good to have a crisis communications plan ready, no matter the size of the business.
Yeah. And, as like an ag communication student, we get told all the time, well, what's your target audience? Like, who are you trying to reach? And things like that. So I think that really does help play into, figuring out what medium to communicate the crisis that's currently happening.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of target audiences, were business in general like your target audience for writing your book, or was there like a deeper I guess what's a good word? Like a deeper level that you had went down to write that book?
So I had kind of two, we teach you all to personify your audience. So who is that person in your mind? So I had somebody or had a persona in mind of a one person communications shop. One person working for a small commodity organization. That was the one person that I was writing for. And then also just a Susie student, my students in my class, there are lots of great, really great risk and crisis communications books out there, but there's not one that focuses on the ag industry. So my ag communication students, my grad students, that was who I had in mind. So is this book helpful to my grad students? Would this book be helpful to somebody that is running a statewide commodity organization or a breed association or something like that? That's who I had in mind when I was writing.
Yeah, and I think you really did like reach both of those audiences very well, because as a student, we don't want to read the textbooky stuff and it gets very old very quickly. But yours like kept me, I know I can say, engaged because it didn't like have that textbook feel to it. I know you are a professor, so when you're teaching your classes, what are some of those like key skills that you want your AgCom students to graduate with?
Well, it depends on the class. But with the risk and crisis communications class, I want them to walk away knowing generally how they would handle putting together a crisis communications plan for their future employer. I want them to have the confidence to walk in to say, okay, we don't have a crisis communications plan, or we do, and here are the things that I would recommend that we might think about doing differently. So those are the skills that I want them to walk away with, because it's creating a crisis communications plan. Creating the plan doesn't have to be hard. Now, when you get into crisis mode and you're having to respond, that's hard. And you're going to second guess yourself, and you're going to feel like it's just, oh, it really makes you question your confidence when you are responding to a crisis. But creating the plan, I want them to walk away with the confidence to create the plan or revise the existing plan that they're walking into. So those are the two big things.
And like, what about just like competencies in general, or just like basic skills that you want them to be confident in that they're able to do?
Be able to write. That's one thing that I want all of our AgCom graduates, either at the undergrad or the graduate level. I think that is competency number one, to be able to write. And then two, from there, to be able to specialize in whatever it is. I think every AgCom grad should be able to have some sort of visual communication skills, be able to take good enough photos, shoot good enough video, and then be able to edit those in a way that represents their organization well, visually. And then also be able to navigate whatever visual software is out there that they can create a good brand image for their organization. Do I think of course I want our students to know how to use the software that we teach them, but there are some organizations that can't afford like the Adobe software. So, okay, well, they're competent. Once you know how to use one set of software, you can generally figure out how to use another one. So I want them to be able to have the confidence to go look up how to use something else, maybe use a free platform and, figure it out. So I also want them to be lifelong learners and able to figure out and navigate the resources that are available to them.
Yeah, and I love how you mentioned just like being able to take like a good enough picture or edit a good enough video. Because my theory coming into college was I need to know a little bit about a lot, and then I can dive into like what I want to specialize in specifically. And I think the hardest part for me, Well, I had a massive fear of cameras because I didn't know how to use one. And now I'm in Dr. Moore's visual communication class, and cameras are pretty cool now.
Yeah.
But the biggest battle I've been fighting so far is Adobe software,
Uh-huh.
because there's just so much to it. Do you guys have like a specialized class teaching like students how to use Adobe?
Yeah, yes, we use different Adobe products in different classes. So when I taught the video class, we used Adobe Premiere. In our photography class, we focus on Lightroom. There's another class that uses Photoshop and Illustrator. Another class uses InDesign. Actually, two classes use InDesign because we create a magazine. So they're pretty proficient with InDesign when they get out of there. And then we've used Dreamweaver some, so our students can understand and navigate code. They can manipulate code, so they can adjust websites as needed. So those are some things that we can do, and so yeah, we use Adobe a lot. But I love Adobe products and I'm pretty loyal to those products. But if it were taken away from me, and if Texas Tech told us that we couldn't use it anymore, I could find something that could get the job done. So I would be sad. I would be very sad. And I would complain a lot, but I could find something, and I hope our students would be able to do the same thing, like to be able to pivot and find something else that could get the job done just as well. And to your point, like you were scared of cameras, and you can do that now, and we learn how to do a lot of things well. That's kind of the goal, and a lot of our students have to do, and this is AgCom students across the country. They're able to do a lot of things well, but we do have a lot of students that really specialize in one field. So, we have lots of AgCom grads that are phenomenal photographers, and it's amazing some of the things that they can do. We have some AgCom grads that are wonderful writers. And so a lot of our graduates will specialize in one area. So it's kind of fun to see what a lot of our graduates in different AgCom programs, where they choose to specialize or how they choose to generalize in different areas. And that's the cool thing about our degree.
Yeah. And I think like, I don't know if this applies to other schools, but here people see AgCom as just like the easy degree. And I think it's because you have to have that creative mindset and the willingness to learn about all of these things. And if you're closed minded, you're not going to do well in an AgCom degree. And I don't think a lot of students here, I don't know if I can speak for you guys as well, but they don't see that, yeah, we may not be taking hard exams or like doing a lot of studying for different types of like herbicides and pesticides, but we have to know a lot of different things to ensure that those herbicides and pesticides dealers like can get their communications and like help with their sales, because that's our job. Um, for me, I think I like to be a more generalized person. So like I don't really like sticking and doing to the same thing, for the rest of my life. I know I'm probably going to bounce around a little bit until I just find something that suits me to a T. And I think a lot of AgCom students are like that as well. We have a lot of good photographers and a lot of good writers, but most of us can just do a little bit of everything. And I think, our professors have tailored those classes to help us learn Adobe software, cameras, like AP style and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And to I think you're exactly right. It's for the people that are really have creative minded, the AgCom classes come easy. And for people that are open minded, these classes come easy. But if that is not your gift, if that is not your skill set, then it's going to be very hard. And I have seen many students over the years come in, and writing was not their skill set, or visual communications was not their skill set. And so this was not the right degree for them. And it was hard for them. So so that's that's kind of a misconception, is that this is an easy degree. For those of us where the creative field comes easy to us, we make it look easy because
Yeah.
it comes easy to us. Whereas I think, the same thing goes, maybe with somebody that's majoring in horticulture or something like that. You walk into their office and it looks like a jungle because they're gifted with plants, and that's easy for them because that's their skill set. So, I think it's a matter of just finding what fits for you and what comes easy for you, what you're good at, what you're passionate about. And for us in ag communications, we're passionate about communications. We're good at it. It comes easy for us, and then we make it look easy, and that's our gift.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh, I can't even keep a cactus alive. So thank God I chose ag communications. My cactus just died on me.
And
So
you will tell people, you'll talk to the horticulturist, and then you'll tell people how to keep that cactus alive.
exactly.
Yeah.
I know you're a very, very busy lady. How do you manage everything you're involved in at the university and like still have a personal life? How do you manage that work-life balance?
I don't know. It's sometimes it's very challenging. There are we're just coming off our regional fair here, and it's so the last week was very busy, and it just kind of felt like it was kind of funny to hear my kids say, do we have one night where we don't have anything to do?" And I'm like, "No." We do not. So it's just you just kind of manage it as you go. And yeah, I'm really committed to my Outlook calendar, and have to make sure that everything goes into that. And I try to be good about sharing anything that may impact my husband, to make sure that I share that with him. I've tried to get my kid to start using a Google Calendar, but he's only 14 and in 8th grade, and so that's been difficult, but he's learning. So yeah, I try to share stuff with him. Like anytime we have some sort of 4-H event or school event, try to share that with him too. But yeah, it's I live by my Outlook calendar. So yeah, I try to appear very organized because I have a little calendar that's telling me what's next in the day. So yeah, so
Yeah,
that's balancing that. That's one thing. And then the other thing is just to not let work overtake my life. Yeah, we did have a very busy week, and we were very busy with the fair. And Saturday we worked the 4-H barnyard, and then our church has a booth at the fair where we're selling, it's a concession stand. So we worked both. And then yesterday, both my husband and I both were like, we're not doing anything. We can do some stuff in the yard just to kind of make it look like people live at our house. Get some of the weeds down out of the front yard, but otherwise, nothing. We needed that day of rest to just kind of recoup and reset for the week, and I think both of us are in better frames of mind because of that. So just kind of taking things as they come and making sure that we prioritize time to take care of ourselves, make sure we're getting enough rest and things like that. So I don't really have any advice. That's just kind of what works for us. But there are some times where you're just like, oh my gosh, could we add anything else to this week? I don't think we can. So yeah.
yeah. I feel you. Well, our Georgia State Fair starts this weekend, and I'm not going to have a free day until like the last week of October.
Yeah.
And just because I'm so involved at the fair, we have our Sunbelt Ag Expo, and there's
Oh
so much
yeah.
going on. Um, I am loyal to like my Apple calendar on my phone, and I
Hmm.
also have like a calendar up on my wall that me and my roommate keep up. And people ask me, they're like, "Oh, well, how do you stay so organized? How do you always know what to do?" And I'm like, "If it's not in my calendar, I'm not going. If I forget to put something in my calendar,
Hmm.
it's out of my mind
Hmm.
completely." And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm glad I appear organized, but I swear, like, I'm really not. I'm very scattered brain.
So am I.
Um,
And I hate that. I hate that I am scatterbrained. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
when you have so many different like working pieces in your life, it makes it really difficult. So you kind of learn what works best for you. And I've tried to give like other students advice on what works for me, but I really can't testify for them because I'm not sure if they kind of have that same working scatterbrain that I do. But I try my best to help people out with staying organized. I have list of to-do list for like different things, school and national ACT and ABAC ACT and my job and all those working pieces. That's what keeps me in line every week.
Yeah, I have a multiple to-do lists everywhere. I have them in my iPad. I have several sticky notes. Like there was something somebody said one of you said something a minute ago, and I had to jot down something to remember something to do after we get off the call. So otherwise, I would forget it. So yes, it's yes, being scatterbrained is a curse, but that is just the way God made me. So
Yeah.
I try to work around it.
So looking back, like what would you tell either like your undergraduate or graduate student self? What was some advice you would give to that younger version of you entering the field that you're in today? Would you have changed something or would you keep it as it is?
Mm, things that I would have changed as an undergrad entering the field. That was a long time ago. Uh, actually, don't put so much stock in work. Like when I entered the field years and years ago, I was very career minded, and that was really all I had going on in my life. And then when things weren't going well at work, then things weren't going well in life. And I had moved to a new town, and I didn't have any friends or anything at that point. So really, all I did have was work, and what friends I had were my work friends. And so yeah, that wasn't great. And I wish at that time I would have found some sort of like a civic organization or a church or something like that, to have something to distract me from work, because that's really all I did. And yeah, we things were great in the beginning. Like when I first started working at my first job, it was a lot of fun. And then our TV stations merged, and the bosses changed, and then it was not fun. And that's all I had to do was go to work. And so I had to figure out quickly a way to find something else that I enjoyed to do so that I didn't think about work all the time. So that would be my biggest piece of advice. And I know a lot of people are better about having a life than I was at that point. But that's my big piece of advice. And the other thing that I kind of joking, but not really, tell people, I tell my undergrad students on the last day of class, or I actually tell all my students on the last day of class, buy good shoes. And I say this because as a young reporter, I bought the shoes that I could afford, and man, my feet were torn up. Like I had yeah, like terrible arches, blisters, and it was because I was wearing cheap shoes. So yeah, get you like 2 pairs of good shoes, and that's really all you need. And yeah, so that's those are my 2 pieces of advice. So
That's so
yeah.
funny. Good shoes and a good attitude.
Yes, and wear your seatbelt.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that you mentioned, you wish you could have found like a church or a civic organization to be
Mm-hmm.
involved in with your job, because that's one of my biggest fears is like once I graduate, while I'm in college, I have so many different opportunities to be involved in so many different things because they're just thrown at me every day. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
worried that once I graduate and I get into a job and I'm in the field, I'm not going to know how to find those opportunities that are outside of my job. That's a big fear of mine, and I think a lot of other students can testify to that as well.
Yeah. So that's it's I would recommend looking, wherever you end up with your job, look to see if there's a county farm bureau that you could get involved with, or Rotary. I'm trying to think of the ones here in Lubbock. The AMBUCs are really active here. The Lions Club, we've got several chapters of the Lions Club that are really active. And then like our library has a lot of different groups that meet. There's an adult coloring night that they do. Like every Monday they have coloring night, and so and then there's book clubs and things like that. So yeah, just our community library is a good place to find a social network as well. So that's they cater to lots of interests, not just books. So that'd be another place that I would recommend looking for, a place to find some connections.
Yeah. I've always been asking people, what do you recommend that you do that's not work while you have a job?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're going to transition. For this podcast, I have taken a page out of your book, and at the end of every session, I do rapid fire questions. So now you're the one who gets to be put under the rapid fire questions.
I quit doing that because people didn't like it.
I think it's so funny, like, and it's like, answer as quick as you can, and then they buffer for like 30 seconds.
I know,
like,
I know.
Oh
my gosh. Okay, fire away.
All right. What is your favorite book?
My favorite book of all time, probably Lonesome Dove.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good one. What's your favorite state you've ever been to?
Oh, my favorite state. Oh, this could get politically dangerous.
Oh yeah, you are from Texas. Texas is the only state for you guys.
I'm actually not a native Texan, so yeah, so that's a hard question. I'll just say the last state that wasn't Texas that I visited was Washington and Alaska. We departed from Washington on an Alaskan cruise, and both were quite nice, and I enjoyed them both. So,
I'd love to go up there sometime.
It's really nice.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, yeah.
What's a communication skill you wish you were better at?
Graphic design. That is not something that comes easy to me. And that's something that when people find out that you were an ag communications major, they assume that you can do graphic design. I get asked to design stuff all the time, and I am not good at it, and I don't enjoy it. Yeah. When we hang up, I'm working on a flyer, and it is not my happy place.
Are you doing it in like InDesign?
Canva.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. And true designers would scoff at that.
Yeah. Apparently here at ABAC, we're big Canva haters, and you learn to hate Canva. So if I'm not allowed to use Canva, I use Adobe Express because it's so much easier than InDesign.
Yeah, it is. It is. So yeah, I have used Adobe Express quite a bit. It works just as well as Canva does. So yeah.
Yeah. Last question, and this one is a hard one. So if you weren't working in agriculture, what career do you think you'd have instead?
Oh, if I wasn't working in agriculture. Ooh, I don't know. Just straight higher education. I don't.
Yeah.
Or I think any job that I could come up with probably would have a tie to ag in some way. But if I wasn't working in ag, I would be just writing books because I really, really enjoyed doing that. So I would like to do that more. And there probably would still be a tie to ag in some way, but yeah, it would just be writer.
Yeah, that's a good answer. That's the answer I give people too, because I love reading and I like writing as well. So I'd love to write books in the future. Okay, you survived the rapid fire round.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I think that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. It was really nice to get to chat with you. And I will link your information and stuff in the bio of this episode. So if anybody has any questions for Dr. Irlbeck, I'm sure she'd be happy to chat with you.
Of course. Yes. I love talking to people. Love talking to college students. Love, having conversations, and love working with ACT members.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Me. Yeah. This was fun. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to The Actual Story. Be sure to subscribe and share so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep telling agriculture's actual story.